I'm Lynn with Psychic Focus at psychicfocus.blogspot.com, and today I have a collection of questions for you, and the topics are: where are we seated here, who's behind the curtain, and does magic exist? So I will go ahead and get started. The first one, and the question is, were we seated here and by whom? And that's really good because I have done a lot of thinking on this, trying to make sense of, where did we come from? How did we get to where we are? And all those different types of things. And I've always seen that we were seated by ET geneticists. And what it looks like to me when I look into this question is that there is a basic fundamental, DNA string of a humanoid being. And what I mean by that is that they have a head, they have two legs, they have two arms, and a torso. And they also stand upright. So there's like this basic core template of what it means to have this humanoid form. But I get what they did was they encoded their own personal print on the DNA chain. And that's how so many people are different. You may have a light-skinned person, you may have a dark-skinned person, you may have people in a certain culture that are typically really tall or really short. And it has to do with what extra encoding or what extra print was put on the DNA chain. And I see that everyone's created from the same base, but then they have something different that's mutated from the species that did the encoding. Like I said, we originally started as an experiment, and then we evolved in this sophisticated and complex being. So it's almost like humans were seated here, but we've most definitely evolved into who and what we are today. And I also got that, and I've gotten this before, the most amazing quality that ETs covet is our ability to experience emotions. And I see that many current day abductions have to do with either fertility, and that has to do with finding a new superior ET race, or understanding and breeding emotions into their race. Even though they find emotions to be a weakness, they covet the ability for us to feel through our mind and our body. So it was really strange to pick up on that and understand that, because you have this weakness, but yet they're jealous of it because they don't have it. So they, to some degree, want to breed that into their individual species, and they are messing with the fertility and breeding in order to do so. So that was kind of a cool take. Then someone wanted to know who's watching behind the curtain and what rules do they use. And I get that there are draconian and archons that have been pulling the puppet strings of the powers that were. I don't refer to them as B anymore because we don't want them to have any more power than they already think they have. And I get that the PTW, that's what I call them for short, think that they're in control, but this is an illusion, as the real powers are with the more evil draconian forces. So it's like they've duped these people into thinking they have power that they don't really have, when they're just talking to someone that's above them. And I got that there were really three main things that they do, or the rules that they have to abide by, and that's how they manipulate us. And one, they have to get permission for what they do. So many times they manipulate situations, or they cause a problem so they can come in and save the day with a solution. Then everybody doesn't think about where this problem started. They think about who's coming to save the day. And they've been able to succeed because when people think and believe that they're being helped, they fail to realize the root of the problem came from the savior of the problem to begin with. And for example, what I got was, say you have a PTW person or group, or hire someone or whatever, and an illness is created in a lab, and they give it to people in the form of an immunization. We'll say AIDS, for example. And then the PTW, they make lots of money with Big Pharma as a result of this, and it's accepted. And the PTW are like, yes, you came in, you saved all these people, not thinking about where it started or where it really came from in the first place. They don't investigate. All they can focus on is the end game of what's going on. And I got that this happens all the time, whether it's false flags and then preying upon emotions to get guns, or creating a war and then making tons of money off of rebuilding, or a disease that's created in a lab and then the medicine that comes out to cure it, or the immunizations that follow up on it. So I get that all the time when people don't investigate or they don't say anything, that's the same as basically giving them permission to continue on what they're doing. And that's what they keep doing. Then I get that they have to put the truth in plain sight. And the symbology is everywhere. So they do put the truth out there. They just may put it in a more cryptic way. You just have to know how to look for it. And I get that they put it all the time in public events like halftime shows, Olympics, music lyrics, that's movies, commercials, you name it. There is symbology everywhere. So we see it. It gets into our collective consciousness, but we don't stand up against it because most people aren't fixated on it. So it's like it's there, but because we don't react in a way that's maybe adverse to it, they just keep doing it. So the truth is out there. As long as we don't object, they consider it consent. And the last thing that I got that was a big rule that they follow is they get us to reinforce their agenda through spell casting. And we do this all the time and we don't even know it. And I see that the PTW have taken over so much of our language. The way that we spoke went from being an art to being this manipulated way of communicating. For example, how many of us just use the word you all the time? You don't even think about it, but what is a you? It's a female sheep. So is that what we're really calling each other? Is that how the language went from thee and thou to you? Or we say, hey, have a good weekend. But really, are you telling someone to be weak on Saturday and Sunday? And factually, well, I don't know. You can go fact check me because I'm not sure, and put a thing in the comments if you want. But when I had this discussion with someone, I was told that more times people die on a Monday morning, MOURNING, after their weekend, their week, WEAK, end, Saturday and Sunday. So you have to do a little research and let me know if that's actually true, but kind of an odd coincidence, don't you think? So I get that we just, if looks could kill, why would you say that? Or for good luck, go break a leg. Do you really want them to break a leg? Like when we say things, we just reinforce this negativity toward one another without even really intending to do it. But you can counteract it when you know it's happening and you constantly reinforce that you're talking from a more loving place. Vibration and intent, they still will overpower this. But we need to be mindful to lessen the impact of how words can be used against each other. So if you're aware of this and you realize it, you can still talk normal, or what we feel is normal based on our culture and how we interact, rather than, you can go back to thee and thou if you want to, but realizing this and realizing your intent of who you're talking to and just carrying yourself in that higher light, you can counteract the negativity. So all is not lost with that. It's just an element of awareness that we have to have. Okay, so the last question here. Did magic really exist like I suspect it did? And if so, what neutered it? What forgotten rituals are being used? So I get, yes, it's absolutely, it did exist and it still exists. And I get that people still use it, but it's become less popular when religion became more popular. So it's almost like when religion took over, that became a different belief system that people went toward. And I see that that's how things separated. I also got that magic, or versions of it, break down into, there's higher vibe elements of it, and then there's lower vibe elements of it. And there's wonderful versions of manifesting, which I get is a version of magic. It's using your mind to create or alter a physical reality. So you're changing your physical reality based upon mental intent and focus and emotion and all these other things. So that is that's magic from a good place. And I see that the law of attraction, that's a good way to explain it. Then there's this darker, sinister magic and rituals intended to feed greed and power. And people absolutely do this. They do the sacrifices. They do the more just very almost evil feeling darker arts out there for personal gain and for influence and power and all these other things. So yeah, magic is out there. It's just in such a spectrum of varying capacities. And that was really all I had for this reading. Thank you so much for listening. Please feel free to leave a comment, like me, share me, all those great things. They help me out so much. And if you get a minute and you'd like to check me out on Patreon, that would be fantastic. By no means is it expected, but always appreciated. So I want to put a little shout out to my patrons as well. And that's all I have. Hope you have a great day. I am Lynn with Psychic Focus at psychicfocus.blogspot.com. Thanks. Bye.